Jessica, welcome to the Busy Fit World podcast. I'm so excited to finally be reconnecting with you. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Wendy. I really appreciate you carving out a spot for me to be on your new show.
I'm super excited to be launching. I'm taking the plunge. I'm copying someone else that I know to take risks and be loud and obnoxious and do things when people tell you that you're not good enough and who are you. I think you might know a thing or two about that.
You got to be big, you got to be bold, whether you're a challenger brand or whether you're just trying to tell your own story, you got to say it 17 times and you got to say it louder each time you say it. And you got to say it maybe a slightly different way each time you say it. But it's important to just consistently be out there and in front of telling your own story, because if you're not telling it, like someone else will tell it. And I'm a control freak, so I'd much rather be in control of those words and kind of give everybody the inside scoop from my perspective.
Well, and before we get going here, one of the really important things that you've talked about in the past on other interviews is about intentionally disconnecting from negative people, not giving them the power, because otherwise they're going to start to tell your story and then make you feel like it's really not possible. So when you said that, what are some of the intentional ways, out of curiosity, for you that work to disconnect from that? And the reason I'm asking is because you are a very brand forward CEO. You don't see this with every brand. You're out there on LinkedIn, you're out there on Instagram, pretty much Twitter, YouTube, any social media platform, we can find you. So how do you do that when you're so in front of the brand?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question because, my background's marketing and I've been in franchising since 2008. And to be in both of those worlds, you need to have the ability to turn off the critics. In marketing, everybody's a marketing expert. Everybody's seen a TV commercial that they think is hysterical. Everyone thinks, let's partner with that NFL player. And why can't we get a sponsorship with this pro athlete? And it all seems very easy from the outside looking in. And I think it's been important for me in my journey to just take those things with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I've come to realize that the best marketers make it look easy. And I take it as a compliment almost, that someone would come to me with an idea that's, actually really difficult to pull off and give that to me as homework to do without budget to do, because it's well, shoot, of course you can do that, because you make it look so easy. And I think it's just kind of the world that we live in now, where there's everyone has an opinion, everyone has the keyboard in front of them, anyone can say anything about what you're doing, about your brand, about your business, about you personally. Everyone has that ability to put that negativity out there, and I just really try to stay in my own lane and not pay attention to the critics, and then not pay attention to the super fans also. I've simultaneously been called the best boss ever, and I've simultaneously been called the worst boss ever. So the truth lies somewhere in between, and you're the keeper of your own truth. And I think it's just important to every day, end the day, knowing that you put your best effort out there and you put your true story out there. That's what matters most.
I love that. You address that beautifully. You're doing such an amazing job of that. And I'm really glad that we could discuss that, because it's so important mindset, right? And the reason I say that is you started a business during COVID-19 when most people were going away from that, having their businesses shut down, you being the risk taker that you are, and the person who's too loud. But let's go back even further before we get into the story about Kickoffs. I'm really curious what life was like for you growing up. So before you were a D1 soccer athlete, was fitness and health a part of, your upbringing with your family? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I played soccer from the time that I was 6 years old. And I think as soon as I realized the correlation between hard work and performance on the field, I just went, I just kind of leaned into that. And was consistently practicing, was consistently putting in extra time. I got into running at a young age. I think similar kind of patterns and drive to understand, like, if I do this, the results will do this. And just had that like ability to correlate those two things really quickly. And the parallels between athletics and professional life are unending, right? And I think the like resilience that you have to build up, the tenacity, the hard work that comes with athletics, the you get really good with failure. You know, you're not going to win every single game, you're not going to win every single match. So like early on, you just have to get comfortable with the fact that like you might win, you might lose, but like, are you stepping on the field feeling prepared? I'm just a big fan of preparation. I'm a fan of working in silence and like working on my own behind the scenes. And, you know, of course, like I love to win. I'm super competitive. But I think like we're in control of only so many of those pieces. And there's so many external, you know, environmental things that go along with that. And, you know, the more that you have your own pieces locked down, you're disciplined with the things that you can be disciplined about, the greater success or the greater opportunity for success that you'll have. So that really started for me in junior high, and then carried into high school and carried into college, you know, where I played soccer, you know, had a major and a minor. And I just have always been a driver, if you will.
Okay, and I'm curious, did that come natural for you from when you were younger, or was there any setbacks, or did you have a mentor of sorts? Maybe it was someone in your family that really sort of drove that for you, or that you looked up to or inspired?
Well, my mother has always encouraged my athletic career, and I distinctly remember being in trouble in, you know, my 13s and 14s and just doing you know, rebellious teenage things and getting grounded and still being able to go to my gym, you know, still being able to work out with my trainer. And,
So even
you
when
know,
you were
that,
grounded, you still got to go work out?
mhm.
That's a really nice mom. That all would have been taken away.
But I think that's why, like, in that example, it just kind of shows that, this is part of your job as, you know, if you're going to commit to playing soccer, you're going to treat it like it's your job. You know, if you're going to play in college, that's your job, you know, and treat it as such, like take it seriously, put full effort in, and, and like control the controllables. So, you know, again, I think she really instilled that, that like effort. And then as results were seen, based on like varying the inputs or varying the effort that I was putting in, I think that's where it just starts to get like addictive, where like, okay, the harder I work, the better I'm going to perform.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome. And I'm so happy to hear that you had that, because not everybody does. So kudos
Yeah,
to you
it's,
for,
yeah, my mom to this day is like my biggest cheerleader. You could probably see some of her her cheerleading on my Instagram posts and things like that. Like she's the hype woman for sure. I don't think she
I need
knows
to
what I
be
do
another hype woman.
necessarily. Yeah, so she is the hype woman.
Is she adopting? Do you want a sister? Jessica? That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when you were in college, because I'm trying to lead up to where you're at now, which is now you're the, you know, in college you were working at a gym at the front desk at a women's fitness type company. But then how did you go from that? Let's talk about getting from there to where you're at now in terms of if someone would have told you 20 years ago that you were going to be the CEO who started a franchise during the pandemic globally, um, what would you have believed them? I mean, what was your vision back then compared to how it changed and morphed into what it is now?
Yeah, I really didn't have a master vision board, and there's been a number of steps along the way that have been surprises, that have like hit my world faster than I would have expected them to hit my world. One example would be, when I was working as a director of brand marketing for YouFit Health Clubs, and I got a call from a recruiter and just dismissed it. And he kept on calling, and he said, "Well, what's your 5-year plan?" Because I was kind of pushing him off, and I was like, "Well, my 5-year plan is to lead the marketing function for a fitness organization." He's like, "Well, I think you need to jump on the phone with me." I jumped on the phone with him, and that's what took me to be CMO of Club Pilates, which, again, hit my world a lot sooner than I would have expected it to. And then at Club Pilates, being CMO and heading into the COVID-19 pandemic, and just realizing that there were so many things that were changing. There were inevitably going to be opportunities out there. I didn't know what they would be, but I just stayed open to what's out there. I stayed keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, watch what's happening. I think some people listen to music when they walk. I listen to podcasts. I listen to what are people talking about? I don't read books. It's too slow for me. It's what's happening today and how is that maybe going to hit my world tomorrow? And so when I talk to people about goal setting, I always talk about leave room for something that you don't see yet. If you're so specific with I want to do this exactly with this by this time, your timeline might be off, your industry might be off. There's certain things that there's just magic that's out there that you just never know how it's going to hit your world. So by all means, set goals, by all means, manifest everything you can, but leave room for show me how good it can get, and leave room for interpretation there, because you never know what's going to hit your path. And the magic is seeing that it is the right step for you to take, and taking that step. So
Jessica, that is huge what you're saying. How do you actually, what you're saying is so hard to kind of wrap your head around, because we get so set in our ways of, okay, today's Monday, so my week's, this is going to happen on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, especially parents, I'm sure. And I have clients for nutrition that I coach where they are so detailed out, where every single meal, every single day is planned, when they're going to the store is planned, all their kids' activities. So maybe you could help us shine a light on someone in those shoes that I just described. How would they sort of leave space for the unknown? How is there even time in the day for that at that point? Because it is magical, like you're saying, and it's really important.
Yeah, I sometimes drive in my car without listening to anything. Or I'll sit outside and I'll just sit and not, I love music, but then you're putting something in. And what you really want to get to is what's out there that I'm not seeing right now, or I'm not hearing. And just give yourself that space to let something come into your mind that, you might start to realize, oh, I'm actually discontent with this part of my life. And I hadn't been feeling that because I've just been charging through it. And so having those moments of quiet to let your intuition take over a little bit. And I think especially in these times where the business playbooks are a little bit out the window, because we've never been through this kind of thing before. We're maybe on the brink of a recession at the same time as we're also clawing our way out of the pandemic. So nobody has a playbook for this. So yeah, what you've done before, and what's worked, and you have those years of experience, but can you also layer on top of that intuition, and what are you feeling about a certain situation or a certain opportunity? And there's so many people who have recently been laid off, and I've gone through that, and I feel for those people. But sometimes you need that. Well, you need that jarring moment. It's intentionally hitting your world, because it's Wendy, you're missing it. I'm going to knock you off your path so hard that it's going to force you to sit and really get clear on what you really want to do next.
And let's
So
talk
if
about
you,
that because you were at Gold's, and at the same time, I was with Quest Nutrition, and the same thing happened to us. We were in our dream job, pretty big brands, and then all of a sudden, my whole entire division went away. Your job went away. I mean, talk about getting knocked off your horse. Suddenly, I know for me, it was unexpected. And when that sort of becomes a part of who you are, it's like taking a step back, like, okay, clearly this has nothing to do with who I am anymore. So getting just past that, and that's huge because it's not like we worked there for a day. In fact, that's how we met.
yeah, and that was 10 years ago now, which is crazy. But, I think that goes back to maybe like athletics and understanding, I tore my ACL in college. Am I going to stop playing? No, I'm going to rehab and get back on the field and like get back out there and try even harder than I did before because I care that much about it. And when I had that moment of getting laid off from Gold's Gym, like working in fitness, in marketing, in franchising, all the things that I love, it caused me to sit, reflect, be sad for a really long time, but get clear on the clarity that hit my world was, you know what, I don't want to leave the fitness industry. I didn't want to get laid off from Gold's. So let's just find another fitness job. And, then I just kind of went down a path of like, who do I know who's working where? I want to stay in fitness. Let me just aggressively like go after my next role. And I'm big on, connecting with people on LinkedIn, and you and I have stayed connected there. That's, for the last 10 years, you and I have been connected there.
Well, just to show how important building and forging those relationships are and maintaining them and not burning a bridge, even though, the same thing with me with Quest, I'm still connected with a good amount of the executive team that worked there when I was there, regardless of even if you're getting laid off. It just goes to show the power of relationships.
I'm speaking at the Gold's Gym Franchise Association conference next week.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's amazing. Literally.
But I love them, and I think that's the lesson that I took from it is like, it's something that happened to me. I was able to like control my controllables out of that, outside influence, and I'm still standing, and, I cheer for them, and I hope that they're cheering for me as well at the end of the day.
I love that. Okay, let's get into, if you could talk about just, I know that you said that you're not naturally a risk taker, but actions prove that statement different because you started Kickhouse during the pandemic when a lot of businesses, like I said, especially the mom and pops, had no choice but to close down forever. And then here you're sitting here strategizing, like instead of just standing still, that's just as risky as moving forward, literally like busting down doors and creating this franchise that's now nationwide. Which I haven't been to one yet. I looked up and there is one in Yorba Linda about 30 minutes from me. So I signed up for my free pass.
All right.
But I mean, there have been a lot of people questioning, like, basically, are you crazy? Like, you think you're going to start a business and it's going to be a franchise when we're not supposed to be going anywhere? So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to like where you started, which is like preparing for a soccer game. It's the exact same. It doesn't feel risky if you feel prepared. So I had spent the prior 3 years in the boutique fitness space, opened 400 studios, like deep dived into the inner workings of 600 studios. And so when the opportunity presents itself to start from one, I felt confident enough that I knew the pieces of the business and had worked in the business long enough and looked at the business from not just a marketing perspective, but really from like a holistic perspective, and been in the studios with the teams and visited like locations across the country. So I think from the outside looking in, somebody's like, oh, that's super risky that you just took that jump. But from my perspective, I see the prior 3 years of homework that's playing into that one like decision moment. And for me, it's like I'm just passionate about chasing potential, and like anytime you push yourself outside of what you're comfortable in, push yourself outside of what you know. I knew there was going to be pieces I didn't know, but that's where the growth comes in. That's where learning comes in. And like I had confidence that I could close that learning gap and get like myself skilled up fast enough to make it happen. So it definitely was not an easy journey because it wasn't all in my expertise. It wasn't in my sweet spot of marketing and branding, and it was during the pandemic. So I learned a ton, but that's where you grow. And I think I'm going to be a better leader. I'm going to be a better operator, better executor in roles going forward because I've lived through what I've worked through the past 2.5 years.
I feel like you could write a book about this by now, and you've been asked so many times to explain how you did this. Do you have that?
I actually have a Google Doc on my desktop, like at all times. Like I take notes along the way because I feel like I will at some point write a book, and then I want to be able to reference like specific examples of things. So anytime my day is like specifically difficult or stressful, or there's something I'm like that's sitting in my mind, I like write it down in this timeline document, so I'll be able to like reference it going forward.
There you go. It's already in the making. I love that idea, actually, because there'll be so many times where I'm driving and I like want to write something down, and then I don't have my notebook, and then you forget it. I would like to talk about how you navigate this in terms of being a parent. So you're a CEO, you're running a franchise, you've got employees, you've got your home life, you've got a child. How do you balance all of this? Because if anybody's busy, it's a CEO. Obviously, fitness is important to you. So if you could talk about that for all these other busy moms just trying to, I like one of the marketing slogans that you guys have about you just want to kick it up a notch. And I love that because you're not saying, one of the quotes I've heard you say was, you don't need to have shredded abs to come to Kick House to get more shredded abs. Like, you're wanting to talk to people about where they're at now. Like, it's okay that you're not perfect. It's okay that you gained 20 pounds during the last 2 years. So I really love your approach, but I'm just curious, behind the scenes, when you take off that CEO hat, there's a lot to balance.
Yeah, as a entrepreneurial mom, I can wholeheartedly say there is no balance. It's very skewed. In whichever direction I'm in, I try to like 100% be in work mode when I'm in work mode, and then I try to be 100% present with my son when I'm with my son. What I've become more able to enjoy as he's gotten older is I try to blur those lines a little bit whenever I can. So I take him to events to hand out free class cards. He'll go to me with 5Ks and set up the table and the tent, and he'll give anyone a free scrunchie. Like he knows.
I love this. He's starting to learn business.
He knows what to do, and he's a little content creator in and of himself. He has his YouTube channel has more subscribers than my Kick House channel, which he consistently reminds me of. And
I love this.
And he'll go to the studio with me sometimes. So I think whenever you can put the things together and show them what you're working on, I think it helps them understand, like, when you are away, what are you doing? And I was recently lucky to have the opportunity to meet Gary Vee, and Gary's team reached out to me after that point and said, like, we love your story. Anytime you're in New York, come see us. I was like, absolutely, I'll come to New York and see you. Can I bring my son? Because he edits, and he would love to see like the video production that goes behind Gary Vee's content creation strategy. So do I miss baseball games? Yes. Do I miss concert recitals? Yes. Do I probably do less than most parents do? Yes. But can I still be a really impactful and positive parent? Absolutely. And can I also show him that there's more to careers than typical 9 to 5s? Absolutely, I can. So I think he is learning the entrepreneurial hustle a little bit from me. And I think hopefully also learning how to pursue what you're passionate about, and really pursue something that you love so much that you're willing to commit so much to it.
I love that. And that makes a lot of sense. I really didn't think about that, so that he's not kind of farming in his own mind about what is mommy doing when she's at work, quote unquote. He knows exactly what you're doing now, or has a really good idea about it. And kudos to getting on Gary Vee. That is amazing. What was that experience like?
So I was in Chicago for the Club Industry Executive Summit. I was presenting there on Web3, and my coworker messaged me on Twitter and said, "Hey, do you see that Gary's in Chicago at the exact same time that you're in Chicago?" And he just happened to be 2 blocks away from me. And I went to a Club Industry happy hour event and left 30 minutes early because I wanted to go and try to meet him. And I literally was the last person to get in line to see him and to connect with him. And I'm standing in like a 50-person line to meet him. And I was thinking of all of the business related questions I could ask him. And the only thing that kept like coming into my mind is just to tell him thank you, because he's in my ears almost every single day, giving me thoughts of what to do, giving me like advice and inspiration, even though it's not specifically for me. But that's the content that I consume when I'm at the gym. You know, that's what I'm listening to, because that's what gives me thoughts to build, like as an entrepreneur. It gives me thoughts on what to post, you know, as an entrepreneur to promote my business. It gives me like different ways to be scrappy in how I'm positioning my business. So as an entrepreneur, I love listening to that kind of content, because it gives me just that like motivation to keep on going and to keep on building. And you know, entrepreneurship is
transparent and very
yeah,
hands-on.
absolutely.
You're either gonna love him, and I'm a fan as well, or you're gonna be like, oh, this is a little much. But that's why I love it. It's because he just says what it is. Tells it the way he sees it.
Yeah, but an entrepreneur's journey is a unique place to be, and you almost simultaneously you have that feeling of success and complete defeat at the same time every single day. Like the stakes are so much higher, you know, the highs are higher, the lows are lower, and you're kind of teetering between, like, how am I going to navigate it? So I lean toward the success side of the equation. And so to talk to more entrepreneurs, to share stories and to just connect and relate, because it is so different than a 9 to 5 kind of job. There's so much more that that you're connected to as an entrepreneur, as a founder, even.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a different kind of stress, but I prefer it.
Yeah,
And I like
if you're one of the crazy ones, you know, like you just end up embracing it.
Yeah. Now, why don't you talk to us about how a Kick House studio is different than your traditional gym, or what really makes it different than Orange Theory or Planet Fitness, for example? Tell us why we need to go to Kick House starting this weekend. We need to go.
Absolutely. You're going to go to Yorba Linda and you're going to sign up. I mean, we like to think that like anyone who walks into the studio, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of fitness level, like my team's job is to meet that person where they're at and help them get to the next level, whether it's like baby step ahead, whether it's, you know, long jump ahead, positive changes always. That looks different for every single person. So instead of it being, you know, come in and do our program, it's really like us meeting you where you're at. Here's the best program that's going to work for you in where you are. I think especially now in fitness, there's so much that that needs to be considered, and we have such an obligation as the fitness industry to show up for people holistically. We've done such a good job over the years of training people to like jump on a scale and, you know, measure the inches of their waist. But now our obligation is bigger, and we need to be that holistic preventative health resource for people. Mental health is such a huge thing that I think about all the time. And, you know, if you're feeling drained mentally, you're not going to show up on the mat the same way physically. And the industry's done a poor job of like connecting those things together. And so I think like looking at people as individuals and picking the right program and path for them as individuals versus like, here's the way everybody does it, so come in and do it that same way. We have such an opportunity to like help people really own and navigate their own like health going forward.
I love that. You are 100% spot on. It's not talked about enough. So I'm glad that that is definitely a part of your story and who you guys are and what makes you different. Because there is a lot of pressure. Even I myself, like there's certain gyms and places that I won't walk into because there's just this, like you said before, like you have to be super shredded and have shredded abs to walk in. And so it's like, I don't want to be a part of, if I feel like I don't have shredded abs, that's definitely not the gym for me. And as an owner and as a company, like, why would you want that to be your message? Because you're really going to leave out a huge percentage of your potential people who could be a member.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like accessibility and inclusivity is a huge thing. And that just comes to life in like overall vibe and community. Kick House is a female owned company, but then it's a female like led company as well. My entire leadership team is female. And I think that comes to life in the studios in that approach that we just talked about. Like, I think we welcome people a little bit more empathetically because we've all been there, done that. And we understand that taking that first step in is so hard. It's so hard.
It can be intimidating. Let's be honest.
Totally. And I've felt that, and I'm somebody who loves to work out, but I still have felt that intimidation factor at times. And so to have a culture that like understands that first timer feeling and accommodates it and puts time and effort toward like working through those initial fears, that's definitely like what we hang our hat on.
I really like that. And then what do you have coming down the pipeline, if you can say? And remember, I'm not launching this until it's not going to be launched right away. But I'm just curious, what do you have up your sleeve for 2023 for Kick House?
Well, we actually just merged with Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, which is a huge partnership for us. And, you know, they're expanding into Japan and the UAE. And I think there's so much opportunity to continue to grow the Kick House footprint and expand internationally with Kick House as well as Mayweather. And there's so many people who still don't do anything in terms of working out. So if I could introduce more people to the fun of punching and kicking a bag, I'm going to do that. So I think our next year is about growing. It's about introducing our brand to as many people as possible. So we have a couple of fun marketing tricks up our sleeve to achieve that.
I can't wait in Jessica Yarmey fashion. Okay, so tell us where, I had mentioned your social media platforms. Where can we find you? If someone is listening to this and they're like, you know, this sounds really interesting. What is Kick House all about? Where do you want our listeners to go?
Yeah, they can find their location that's closest to them at thekickhouse.com. And then Kick House shows up on social media either at the Kick House or Kick House. My social media is at Jessica Yarmey, basically on every single platform. So you'll be able to find me pretty easily, and I look forward to connecting with all of you guys.
Excellent. Jessica, thank you so much. I know that we have covered a wide range of topics, but I feel like we really, I want people that are listening to this just to be able to take away, you know, that there are other options, Kick House being one of them, and to be able to come in at any level. I really love that. And then just thank you for sharing some notes on other moms in their busy fit world to try to navigate that. And I like that you admitted, it's no black and white in terms of like being balanced, and that you were just open about that, and it looks different for everybody. And it's kind of, you have to do what works for you.
Everybody's busy fit world is going to be, unique to them. So find the right mix that's going to work best for you. My mix is definitely atypical, but it works for me. And I think, if you're listening to this and you're in that busy mom mode, who's also trying to stay healthy and stay active and take care of herself, like those are big tasks, and you can do it. Find the right mix that's going to work to set your busy fit world up for success.
Well, and we can't leave out your other child. It's a fur child. So I have to ask before we go, because we have the same type of dog. Did you adopt Sarge, or how did you get him, and why did you pick a Belgian Malinois?
He was a rescue, and I honestly had no idea what kind of dog he was. He was on a kill list at a shelter, so I opened the link for the shelter, which is never open the link, because then you fall in love. And it listed his age, his weight, his breed, and I had no idea. And then it had kill date Wednesday. I was like, I'll be there on Tuesday. Like, I'm gonna pick him up. So this is my boy.
Oh, and he's so perfect for you too, because they are so full of energy.
Oh yeah. That's what everybody laughs. They're like, he's just as chaotic as you are.
So it's perfect. He's the dog version of you.
Right. Match made in heaven.
I know. It's mine too. We're up. It's 365. It's not when you feel like it. It's not, it's a no option. You got to take them.
Exactly.
All right, Miss Jessica, thank you again so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. And I am super excited to continue to just watch your journey unfold.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on your show, Wendy.